My name is Mickey Dender. I'm a security researcher and a product security expert in open source security for the Intel Product Assurance and Security Group. As we heard from Al and Sharon's question from GD and I, diverse and inclusive teams are very high performing. But diversity and inclusion has become an industry buzzword, pretty much a marketing strategy anymore. But what happens when a company doesn't advertise themselves as having a diverse and inclusive culture? You're probably not going to want to go to work there. But there are times when privacy and anonymity intersect with diversity and inclusion. And sometimes they interact with each other in unexpected and not necessarily a good way. So, we're here today so that I can talk to you about three things: safe spaces, transparency, and the end goal, and how they all should be working together. I'm going to start with safe spaces. How do we create safe spaces? I'm going to tell you a story about an Intel employee and the challenges that they faced. And the challenges that they faced in particular when privacy and anonymity ran head-on into diversity and inclusion. Before I can start that, though, we kind of need context for this story. So I'm going to give you a timeline of events. And the way that these events ran out will show you how this can be bad. In 2007, the employee started at Intel. In 2008, the employee, under physician care, started medically transitioning as they were transgender. Sorry. They didn't feel comfortable coming out. And so, rather than coming out, because they were still new on the position, they opted to remain silent, isolated, and alone. In 2009, the employee changed positions inside Intel, moved to a new group. Unfortunately, they still didn't feel comfortable. So they decided to, once again, stay silent, remain isolated, and still remain alone. Fast forward to 2015. Intel announces transgender healthcare benefits based on WPATH, the World Professional Association for Transgender Health. This was an industry-leading step forward for Intel. 2016, Intel decides to remove all caps on the transgender healthcare benefits, which is just unheard of. It was definitely one of the industry firsts. This is also the same time that the employee decided they were comfortable enough that they could come out on their own. At the same time, they also changed positions once again. And moving to a new group, and with the support of their old team and the support of the new team, managed to stay out as themselves and continue working. 2018, well, I'll come back to that one in just a minute. So now we have the timeline, and we can see that it took 8 years of Intel creating this safe space for this employee in order to make them feel comfortable enough to come out. So now let's talk about transparency. On the timeline, we have that space between 2015 and 2016 where the employee wasn't out, but Intel had given new transgender healthcare benefits. So the employee decided they wanted to see what they could do and how they could use those benefits. So they went out and they looked, like all good Intel employees, searched on Circuit. And what did they get? The original press release. That was all that was available. There was no information on how to use the benefit. There was no information on where to get more information. And there was no information on how to use it. So the employee decided, my only alternative is to talk to HR. So this employee decided They still weren't out. They weren't comfortable with everybody having their knowledge. They went ahead and filed an HR ticket, expecting this to go to one HR person. And Intel's policy around HR is typically 72 hours and you get a response. The employee waited 3 days, 4 days, and then finally on the 5th day they got their response. When the employee got the email and they opened it, they were horrified. The personal information that that employee gave out to what they thought was one person had been forwarded on to at least 7 other people. The employee felt violated. They felt exposed in a way that they were totally not expecting. Now, was there malice? Absolutely not. This was HR doing their job, trying to answer the question that the employee had asked. But because no one asked that employee about their personal information and forwarded it on, trust had been broken. So we can now see how 8 years of creating a safe space by Intel was destroyed completely with one email. The goal. Ask the question, at what cost? Determine what is the end goal and what was the ultimate purpose. If the community you're trying to serve was not part of the original conversation, stop and ask somebody from the community. I guarantee you they will tell you something that you have forgotten. The goal, remember, was not transgender health care in general. It was to provide a confidential support service to the transgender population inside Intel. So in conclusion, I've shown you that privacy and anonymity can intersect with diversity and inclusion, and typically unexpectedly and not necessarily in a good way. That safe spaces, transparency, and the end goal all need to be considered together as one. Create the safe space, be transparent with information inside and out, and don't do things that can affect other people without asking. And back to that 2018 timeline, the employee gave a lightning talk at the Oregon Leadership Conference. Thank you.